Okay, everybody, how is it going? This is the fourth time we've got 5 minutes into the show and realized something was broken because we don't have Fern.
Why are we so bad at this?
So, these are your two of your three favorite show hosts, Arasil.
And Volasal, and we're here to bring you the fourth attempt to bring you a show for the week.
So, this is the first time we did this. I forgot what happened the first time. So much stuff has been going wrong in sequence, but it didn't. Oh, I forgot to turn on the local backup recording, and then the second time we did this, my internet exploded and everything crashed hard. And I had to reset everything. And then the third time we did this, everything was going good except for the part where the crash screwed up YouTube, and all of a sudden, YouTube didn't start broadcasting the stream anymore. So I had to stop again after 5 minutes, and now we are trying again. And this time I can see the video in the YouTube record thing.
Oh, yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Right, so everything is basically going the way you normally expect from one of our shows when Fern isn't at the helm. But we're going to do our best. But I've said that so many times now that it just kind of rings hollow.
It's just that our best isn't very good.
Yeah, our best is stunningly mediocre would be massively overselling us.
Yeah, we when it comes to stuff like this, we ain't got no experience doing this. Oh look, there's one. I wonder if this one will blow up too. So on top of that, we don't have any kind of weeks filled with media that
No,
we can talk
not
to you guys
really.
about. We've been busy.
Yeah, it's been a rough week in a variety of ways. I was sort of hoping that Fern would be able to carry us, but he's busy. He's off training new staff for his family business, so that hopefully he will be able to have more shifts of not working as opposed to working all the time. But it remains to be seen how that'll shake out, because they haven't had a lot of luck with new employees in the past, who you immediately will shoot through after completing their training. Something that seems to happen in a lot of industries. But at any rate, for myself, I basically experienced my computer falling apart on me. The issues originally started a while back with like the odd blue screen, but there weren't that many of them. It was sort of like happening, once in a while, like once a month or something at most. And I didn't really think much of it, because I'll get a blue screen, my computer would restart, and then there'd be no more problems. And so it's rather than solving it, as would have been sensible, I just sort of rested on my laurels. Around February, I started getting blue screens all the time, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on? Maybe something got installed recently or something." And I looked at, well, there was a Windows update on the day that it started happening, so obviously that's the problem. I'll just uninstall the update and everything will be K. And I did, and everything was K. And so I was like, it must have been a hardware problem, driver conflict or something with the Windows update. Let's not worry about that too much. So I thought that was all well and good. I would just wait for a driver update or something, and then it would eventually fix the problem. That didn't really happen, because Windows kept going behind my back and installing the update again, and I kept uninstalling it, and so it would crash while the update was installed, and then stop crashing when the update was not installed. Eventually, Windows update became so persistent that I decided I was just going to deal with the issue. I would just do a reinstall, do a refresh install, and everything will be fine. Then things got a bit more complicated, because when I attempted to do the reset install, the rather than actually completing, it would just blue screen midway through the process, and I'm like, well, I mean, the update keeps installing as part of this process, so it's I suppose it's logical that I can't do it from inside Windows. So I created backup recovery media, and decided, well, I'll just try and install from there. It didn't go so well. I started blue screening despite the fact that I wasn't using anything on my hard drive, in theory. So I decided it had to be a hardware issue. I wasn't really sure what to do, but at this point, the install had balked so many times that I couldn't do anything with my computer. If I tried to do anything, it would either just lock up or get caught in a boot loop. So instead of that, I went whinging to my brother for what I should do, and he said, just reset your RAM and then run this program. And he flicked me this program for testing my RAM. So I did that, and it turns out one of my RAM sticks is completely stuffed, like comically stuffed. And so yeah, I've gutted that out of my computer now and reinstalled Windows. So I'm working with a relatively bare bones PC at the moment and waiting for new RAM to arrive. But because the local supply chain is a mess due to everybody self-isolating with alleged COVID, but more likely a severe case of not wanting to work, it might take a while for my RAM to get here, but hopefully not too long. But in the meantime, I was basically I wasted most of my free time this week troubleshooting my computer and not really accomplishing very much and not being able to play any video. So yeah, don't really have much of a week. I did play a reasonable amount of FGO in the earlier end of the week. I made a bit more progress on the Olympus chapter, but now I'm sort of deeply enmeshed in the sort of the boss rush phase of every chapter, where you just have story chapter, boss chapter, story chapter, boss chapter until the end of the story, and I'm sort of like halfway through the boss rush by the feel of it. But yeah, the last major boss gave me quite a bit of trouble. Zeus gave me quite a bit of trouble. Not because the fight is intrinsically that difficult, but because it is long and gimmicky. And so oftentimes you can make a timing mistake with your actions quite early on in the fight, and those implications will not play out in such a way to tip you off that you're screwed until quite late in the fight. So I think in total I probably only took 3 or 4 or 5 attempts at it, but that took probably like, a couple of hours because it's so difficult to decide exactly how things are going at any point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, story wise, I think that it's sort of managing to salvage some of the mess that it's made in various ways, but ultimately it still feels like a predominantly a lore dump chapter explaining all of the loose ends about the way the Greek pantheon works in the Nasserverse, and it's it doesn't strike me as being as weighty or remarkable as I think that it thinks that it is in a lot of ways. Uh, I think it's almost a little bit impersonal in a way. But yeah, it is what it is. It's not like I've disliked it or anything, but I don't feel like it's necessarily the pinnacle of the writing. It is interesting. It's definitely very interesting from the perspective of a Nasserverse fan who's into the world building. But taken as a narrative in and of itself, it's only interesting. It's not standout. Like it's not memorable for me the way some of the earlier chapters were. Like I just don't recall anything like any particular moment that I thought was super super cool. It's pretty clear the writers thought they were creating those really, but ultimately, both myself and a lot of other people that I remember talking about it around the time it came out on the Japanese servers were just sort of glad to see Musashi's story arc finally come to an end, because she'd become such a plot tumor she's ridiculously popular with the Japanese players, and as such she just got jammed into every story, and she just never struck me as a very interesting character. But she was super beloved by a lot of the player base, so she got attention whether I want her to or not. But her story arc basically comes to a comparatively decisive end in the Olympus chapter, and she gets to go out in her big heroic moment to close out her storyline. But I just can't say that I really cared. It was like,
Yeah, I don't.
fine, Musashi is gone. We won't have to put up with her anymore.
Yeah, Musashi. It's like her, Nero, and a few other characters just monopolize all the all the screen time when they show up.
Yeah, if they show up, all the narrative oxygen gets sucked out of the room to power them, and
And
that's basically
and
they become the center point of the story.
they were cool for like one event, because in the West, well, nobody has any attachment to Nero. That's just one or two writers over there. And then and then with Musashi in the West, we just don't care as much because that story hasn't penetrated our culture very much.
I mean, if she appeared in the storyline that is associated with her launch and in the Shimosa storyline, and that would have been enough. That would have been enough. With the the little coda on the end saying that, oh, and at the end of Shimosa she becomes a servant. I would have been happy with her doing the walking the earth thing after that, and maybe putting in a cameo once in a while at most.
Yeah.
But instead of that, they just made her like a center function of multiple stories going forth from that, and I don't care enough about her for that to happen or to be impressed by that. And I think that it was probably the most egregious to me was the Las Vegas event, where that story, I mean, it's a summer event. Summer events are always silly, but the story was supposed to be Ui's event. It was supposed to be about her and the other wacky hijinks that the various members of Koldea get up to during summer. But instead it became another Musashi story, and the entire story pivoted around her and things she had done.
Yeah.
What does this thing do again?
I don't think it matters. Just don't stand in yuck.
But yeah, so I'm glad that her story is done, and like you can sort of see that they always had sort of a loose plan for how she was going to finish her story, and why it is that she kept showing up is also sort of explained, but the explanation is legitimate given the sort of the loosey-goosey way that the Nasuverse tends to lean somewhat on the narrative imperative for some of its developments, but that's fine because that's baked into the way the world works to a certain extent. Maybe not to the extent that it is in Discworld, but it's still there. So there's an explanation, but it's the sort of explanation that feels not like it was necessarily retroactively put in there, but it's like it's an explanation that basically exists to justify her.
Well, the Nasuverse has always had like the big cosmic forces playing around, almost intentionally writing an interesting and big story. You have like the theoretical pruning phenomenon and Alaya and Gaia and all these systems set up in this world that just, and the counterforce that all just seem to act in a way to make things as dramatic as possible.
Yeah, the problem is that Musashi is sort of like a self-contained phenomenon in that sense. Like, her phenomenon exists exclusively for her alone. It doesn't apply to the broader world. It's not something that we can ever expect to see again unless they need it for something.
Yeah.
Something like the way the counterforce acts appears time and time and time again, because it's just like a core premise of the setting that mankind tries to preserve itself by hook or by crook. And that's just part of the way the world is structured. But Musashi's phenomenon is just Musashi being Musashi and doing Musashi things, and then when Musashi is gone from the story, you will never see the Musashi effect ever again. Which doesn't make it feel like a credible part of the world, which is why why players view her as so disruptive, because she doesn't add anything to anything. She's just there for her own sake and her own sake alone.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not going to really endear her to anybody who doesn't waifu her, basically.
Yeah, and do we miss, was the Horde in here? I know one of these days I'm going to remember to pop the intuition when we get close, when we cap out on them, and the Horde's going to be in the room we did before I popped it. One of these days. But yeah, Musashi, I'd never had any strong opinions on her because I don't read the event stories where she's really a story tumor.
But Aristeal, you pulled her on one ticket. It's obviously fate.
Yeah, and get your auto attack on. Come whack it with your glow stick. or your card.
Oh, the card. We know that's what all the characters in Yu-Gi-Oh really want to be doing.
Well, they do sometimes. I'm pretty sure both Kaiba and Yugi use cards as weapons at least one point. But yeah. So I don't have any particular feelings on Musashi. I didn't like or dislike her main story chapter. It was okay to me. I didn't think there was anything super wrong with it. I didn't think it was super great either. So I just kind of have this unfortunate ambivalent feeling towards the character. But if I had played the event stories, I imagine I would be much more done with her than I already am, and I already feel worn out by her from the bits I have seen of her.
Yeah, she just always ends up stealing the limelight, and not in a good way. It's like it always feels very forced. But yeah, it seems like she doesn't really have a strong enough character to justify why it has to be her. Why they couldn't have been another character fulfilling her role in the story. But yeah, it's over now. I don't need to worry about that crap anymore. I wish we could do the same for Nero, but fortunately, Nero hasn't managed to spread her cancer too far outside of her particular branch of the franchise most of the time. So, yeah. But there's a huge problem with creators' pets in Type Moon franchises. Like, Nero is the most obvious case of it, where Nero got written into things because to put Nero in them, and despite the fact that, well, the thing you have to say is Septim. Septim exists, and Septim only existed in order to praise Nero's glory, and that was it. And sort of Nero is sort of like the central antagonist for FGO Arcade as well.
Yeah, didn't they make a lolly version of her, like a Beast of Humanity?
That's the larval form. She has a full Beast of Humanity now.
Oh, did they give her a full one now?
Yes, a deeply uncomfortable looking outfit as well. If I can scrounge up a picture here somewhere.
So many puddings. Where's Miyako when you need her?
You'll be fine. Let's see. Where's show hosts? No, live show chat. Here we go. But yeah, so yeah, one of the lesser known creators' pets actually is Suzuka, and it's not really obvious because she doesn't appear very much, but her creator has a deeply unhealthy attachment to her, and the only way this is really comes out in the way that she's portrayed is that on paper, it's very rarely plays out in stories, but on paper she's a Mary Sue of ridiculous proportions. Like, her actual specs, like, she can outcompute the moon cell by herself.
Which one is that one?
Huh?
Which character is this?
Suzuka.
Is that Tomoe?
No, Suzuka. It's Suzuka.
I'm having a total brain fart on this character. You gotta open the
Suzuka goes in.
Okay.
The JK.
Yeah, okay. It's back. Yeah, we're good. I know now.
Yeah, they arbitrarily decided that she needed to have, like, a computing power that exceeds that of the moon cell. The world's largest, most powerful supercomputer in the extraverse.
Well,
so enormous and powerful that it can simulate the entire world, which in the NASAverse is tantamount to actually creating the entire world.
Oops.
Do we have a cleanse?
What debuff did we get?
Auto heal down.
We'll be fine. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Not what you told me.
I thought it was a lot worse at first, but I've learned it's not that bad. As I've done this place more. Just use a sight so we don't step on any traps and we'll be fine. Ow! Unless that happens. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a big problem with creators' pets, and I think that Musashi was definitely one of those. But unlike the others, she did have a clearly defined story arc, and they put a unusually decisive end on it this time.
Depending on
Normally,
how final it is, it makes me wonder
it's
if
very, very final. Like it's
because even if it's like
at
she's erased
minimum,
from existence forever,
it's at,
deleted from the throne and everything,
that's literally it.
that just makes me think, because of the way the Natsuverse operates, that
The,
Natsu's going
the
to set it up to find a way to subvert it later.
Yeah, you see, the thing is that the Atlantis chapter hints that Roman or someone who looks a lot like him is out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the only comparable candidate who doesn't exist in the throne anymore after having existed in the throne.
Yeah,
So, yeah. What I'm saying is that they committed to a heavier ending than they normally do. Because, like, if you look at the way Nero leaves the story, or the way Suzuka leaves a story, them both being creators' pets, they didn't leave in a decisive way that prevents them from continually returning. However, Musashi, they will need to at least come up with an excuse. And in the case of bringing back someone like Roman,
crap.
it's clearly something that's going to have to be a major plot point because of how important he is and the sort of emotional effect that seeing someone with his face will have on the cast at large.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of Musashi, I can just imagine her just popping up again with a really, really trash excuse and saying, "Oh, hi guys, I'm back."
Oh, hey, I found this thing that, I don't know. They'll come up
But
with...
considering how much they leaned on her climax for drama, that would be. I think that even somebody for whom she is a creator's pet would be cognizant of the fact that it would cheapen the story to an extent that would make it very off-putting for most of the players. I think that they would realise that they were going to offend the customers at that point. Because that's very much a toying with people's emotions thing.
Yeah.
And most people don't actually like being emotionally manipulated like that. Like, there's a certain amount of emotional manipulation that people tolerate for the sake of drama, but when it gets past a certain point, it becomes more like lying for fun sort of thing, just deceiving people for the heck of it. And I don't think that audiences are usually willing to tolerate that. So yeah, I hope that they... I would not mind if they were capable of bringing her back in a way that sort of is just a hint or a cameo, in the sense that, oh well, you might run across in the course of your travels across the multiverse some remnant of something that she has left behind that suggests that maybe, just maybe, in all the myriad worlds she is still out there somewhere. Provided that we don't have to actually deal with her becoming the main story character again.
Yeah.
But their previous behaviour has suggested to me that they can't help themselves. But yeah, so yeah, that's her. The other game that I was capable of playing with no PC at the time was Pinecone, and that has moved into another event, which is accompanied by a rather unhealthily engaging minigame.
It's, it reminds me of the Flash game Kitty Cannon. If anybody who was around in the old school Newgrounds days, it was like the most popular of this type of game on the site.
But for me, it reminds me of the game Hedgehog Launch, which was also a Flash game of the same era, because there were lots and lots of them.
Yeah, there were a lot of games like this. Basically, for those that are too young to remember, you select the angle you want to fire the thing, whatever that game's thing is, at, and then you push button, and random events will load throughout the course, and you try to launch it as far as you can. And these random events can knock it up in the air, make it go higher, or further horizontally, or stop it dead in its tracks, or whatever. And they usually are accompanied by a funny little animation and consequence for hitting them. And they have just straight taken this idea and turned it into a minigame for this event, except instead of a kitty, we get Kuka.
Kuka has issues.
she has a lot of issues.
In fact, I think she is probably the most conspicuously screwed up member of the entire cast.
Yeah, so I could tab out and post them, I guess, in the live show chat as well. But I dumped a screenshot in the video games thread over here somewhere. Where did I dump it? Oh, FGO mobile games. Just the quote from what she's saying here should give you an idea of Kuka's character. Yeah, that's Kuka. Vaul?
I'm just waiting for you to save my life here.
Oh, you got stoned.
There's petrification.
So yeah, her only character quirk is that she is incredibly screwed up in the head and is a insane masochist.
Well, that's one of her two quirks. She actually has two quirks. The other quirk is that she's convinced that Protag Kun is a sadist.
Yes. Kind of goes hand in hand, but and so she follows Protag Kun around and asks him to do more and more extreme things to her.
I think that's phrasing it in a bit of a straightforward manner. Is that because I don't think, strictly speaking, that's what actually happens. It sounds more like she is convinced that Protag Kun is following her around and constantly fantasizes about the things that she is convinced that he's about to do to her.
And she may or may not engineer several circumstances to make at least part of those things happen in story in the dialogue box.
She has issues.
Yeah, she's a crazy girl.
Special.
But
the voice acting is just like the voice acting is almost uncomfortably on point.
Yeah, it's something that can't get replicated if this game was to ever get a dub. She is really something special, that Kuka. And she's in the base game, her base version, because she's not a new character. She's been in the game since launch. She's been a niche tank, one that has a very strong niche that most people will fill at some point as they start getting enough dungeon coins.
I've actually seen a lot of people say that when you're getting started in Arena, she's basically mandatory alongside Pudding.
Yeah, and so
you need to have her and Pudding in your arsenal in order to function in Arena, because anytime you're facing a magic team, you need Kuka. You can't use somebody else.
And that's what she does. She is the anti-magic tank. So she can take all the punishment in the world for magic, but despite being a masochist that wants all kinds of terrible physical things done to her, she falls over like a wet noodle if anything happens to her physically. She is not a strong physical tank.
But also, you can't use her in story because she's got 0 sustain.
Yeah,
like she's just able to soak up damage for the duration of a round of PvP. She's not going to be able to keep going after that. So
there are quite a surprising number of magic-based bosses in like Tower Luna and stuff where she is very, very good and better than most of the other tanks that you'll probably have access to. But
honestly, Tower of Luna and dungeons function like PvP for the most part because they use characters rather than conventional mobs.
Well, yeah. Well, they use in Tower Luna they do have conventional mobs, but they're only single round.
Yeah, well, it's structured like PvP, no matter which way you want to slice it. Basically, the Tower of Luna stages are a spin on the dungeon, essentially.
Are you a frog?
They function like that. Yes, I am a frog.
Okay, there wasn't a chest in there. But yeah.
But it's only in that particular format is she useful.
But she is really good in that format. I have her in my main PvP team right now. Her normal version, because at least in my Princess Arena team, because what a lot of people do in Princess Arena, in this you run 3 teams in sequence into each other, and the first person to win 2 of the 3 bouts wins, but you cannot reuse characters between the teams. And people love to throw their Magic team into Team 2, at least at the higher ranks. So what you do is you put a Kuka in there, and then you put a Halloween Shinobu or a Tamaki in there, and they will clean up by themselves.
I'm fairly sure that we're in different divisions for PvP.
Probably.
Because nothing that you have told me about people's habits has held even slightly for me.
Yeah, it's
the pattern that I have seen in my division is that the Magic Hoser team will be in the third slot. The most powerful physical characters will all be in the second slot, and the rest will be in the first slot. And that's by far the most common layout that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know if somebody made it popular or what, because now I have to plan every team at the thing I'm at. So it's 2 specialized physical teams and a Magic team usually is what people have the resources for. If they're playing at the top of Arena, and I'm really high in Arena right now because Halloween Shinobu is amazing, and can solve most Arena problems by herself.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that everybody in my Princess Arena is new, because I've seen almost no. In fact, I don't think I've seen any Summer Carols at all in Princess Arena.
Yeah, they're
Not even one.
The Magic teams are not very. They're very hard to make work in any Arena context because Tamaki exists, and Tamaki.
Well, the thing is, I see tons of Kyokas.
Yeah, so I don't know how they do it. I mean, you can still make some of the lower Magic characters work and set up a team around them. But
I'm at low rank, so everybody's got pretty patchwork teams. Like they're just trying to scrape together enough to make Princess Arena work at my level.
Yeah,
but it's conspicuous that all of the Magic teams use permanent character DPS.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Summer Carols in there, and because I mean, if you're going to make a Magic team and you've got Summer Carol, there's no Magic team that you don't put her on, right?
Yeah, currently she's a must include on every single one.
But you never see her you never see her in my division of Princess Arena. She just doesn't exist. Same with regular Arena. There are no Summer Carols there. Like, I see Summer Carol all the time in like dungeons, but I never see her in Arena. So I think that I am in a new division.
Yeah, if you start after they periodically start up new divisions and load them with a lot of bots for new players, so they don't get stuck in with us, because we'll just bump their rank down. They won't get as many daily jewels. Because we all have, and then you'll get moved into a proper bracket whenever the 6-month reset for that particular arena comes around. Because I guess they want new players to get the higher jewel income from being higher arena rank if they put the time into it. I think
you do have to put quite a bit of time into it though if you want to make your way up there, because you have to be online at particular times of day, and that I remember that was very much the case with PvP in Azure Lane. I did make it to Admiral rank in Azure Lane, but and that's sort of like being. I managed to make it into the top 10 in my division. I didn't hold on to it very long because it's ultra competitive, and I presume the same is true of Pinecone. But you have to. Not only do you have to be very, very good at team building, but you also have to play at very particular times of day.
It's not that competitive in Pinecone. I'm ranked 34 in my Princess Arena division, like 34 overall in my division, and I barely move. I maybe drop down 10 slots a day if I only do my daily Princess Arena run.
And Azure Lane, you won't unless you are running like the premier team and you've got it like absolutely maxed out. You are not going to be able to hold on to a slot within the top 100 in Azure Lane for more than like a day tops, unless you are going full experts. Like that's basically your only option there. But I keep running into stuff about playing Pinecone esports on accident. I don't have any intention. I don't have any intention of even thinking about it. But it doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, it's the opposite of fun the way they play it.
Like it sounds like signing up to a military force or something.
Yeah,
That you've got to follow orders exactly from your clan leader and do exact things at exact times. You aren't allowed to even work on your characters or upgrade them or gear them in any way without explicit permission from your clan leader and that sort of thing. Like,
yeah,
it's like, is this even a game anymore? This is worse than having a second job. Like, people often compare like heavy farming gachas to like having a second job, but this is worse than that. This is like being part of a penal legion.
yeah, and it gets even worse than that, where most of the top guilds demand that they all give their accounts to the clan leader to run during the clan battle, so he can get bonuses for attacking at the same time, and he'll just run 30 emulated Android devices on his PC or something.
That's unnatural.
Yeah, it's the top guilds are actually insane and breaking TOS blatantly.
Well, I mean, when it's being run by Crunchyroll, TOS hardly matters, does it?
Yeah, it's a mess. I pay no attention to competitive Pinecone. I'm perfectly fine playing it in our little Thigh Highs guild.
That makes it sound real bad.
I mean, after we just spent an entire event shooting Kuka out of a cannon into various terrible hazards and disasters, everything seems kind of tame after that.
She consented.
She did more than consent. she it's bad to say she was asking for it, but she was begging for it. And the further you go, the more extreme her response is to you at the end of it, and just how happy she is that that you got to abuse her, Mr. Sadist.
She has issues. She really does. But yeah, so I haven't done much else. I'm still struggling in Pinecone. I'm like I've mentioned in the past. I'm in that doldrums period where you're very, very bracketed by player or account EXP, and you don't feel like you can really make much progress. There are things that I could do. That's not strictly true, but I have to devote quite a bit of time to learning about it, and I haven't got a very strong tactical grasp of it yet, generally speaking, because I've got a whole pile of like low end EXP stuff, so I could probably raise a whole bunch of the lower level characters and gear a whole bunch of the lower level characters for the purposes of constructing sane PvP teams. Like, for instance, I haven't done any real work on Tamaki, even though she's like a mandatory for PvP, simply because I don't know how to build a Tamaki team, and I'd have to do some research to understand how. So
Kill the bees.
what?
When the bees spawn, kill the bees.
Bees. Oh, bees. Wispies. But yeah. So it's there's stuff for me to do in there, but I haven't had the time to think about it this week because I've been busy trying to get my computer to work. It's really starting to feel like I can't stop spending money, and it's becoming extraordinarily frustrating to me because, my bills are very high now because I'm living by myself, which I still don't regret because it has been of sort of inestimable benefit to my mental health to not be constantly dealing with other people. But I keep having to spend money on things, and like the latest thing is the RAM, but the second to latest thing was actually it's actually become the latest thing because I had to go to the mall today. But I found that none of my pants fit anymore.
Oh no!
Because I've lost another 2 inches of waistline. So all my clothes are too big and keep falling off, and all my belts were too short, and they didn't have any. And last time I tried to put an extra notch in my belt, I realized that it didn't have the structural integrity to take it because it was a cheap belt. So I basically I've got to gradually accumulate a new wardrobe as well now to accommodate the fact that I've lost so much weight from work stress.
I mean, on the plus side, it's probably better for you.
It's better than stress eating, probably. But stress weight loss is also a sign of ill health, so But yeah, so that's sort of a thing, I guess.
I have this really cool belt that doesn't have any notches in it. It's just it's really stretchy, and you can push the loopy thing through.
What's the point of a stretchy belt?
I guess so you can put it on if you get fatter.
So yeah, I didn't have any. I didn't have any belts that worked anymore, and all my pants were too big to stay up on their own. So yeah, I ended up going shopping today. I had to go get a haircut because the unvaxxed lepers are now allowed to get their haircut again because the government was not able to keep enough popular support to keep the mandate against haircuts for the unvaxxed in place. Due to the poll results, essentially. The very obvious poll results scared the crap out of the ruling party here, and so they've been trying to strip off as many of the restrictions as they can without losing all of their newfound power. But
Oh, crap.
oh boy. But yeah, yeah. So I went to a store at the mall.
Hey,
that
we found it by
specialised-
accident.
Wow, it really does happen. But yeah, I went to a place at the mall that specialises in actual leather products, and the guy there basically he told me that when you buy a leather belt from a big box outlet, what you actually get is technically a leather belt because it's made out of leather. However, it's actually made out of leather pulp that has been pressed into and bonded into shape, and then they put a leather surface veneer on it. It's not actually a piece of leather.
I see.
So, yeah. So I bought a belt today that was quite expensive, but it was made out of a single piece of cowhide, as opposed to the usual trash. So hopefully that will last a bit longer than the few months at best that the cheap ones can. But yeah, it's just another thing in a long line of expenditure that I'm hoping will come to an end soon. But I don't. There's still a ton of things for me to buy because I don't have a couch yet. I don't have a television. I don't need a couch or a television, but for some reason I feel like I should own one. Like my living room is empty. It feels weird.
I mean, you're not going to entertain people because you're you. You're not going to ever use it yourself because you'll want to be near your PC to have Discord open if you're playing multiplayer games.
Well, there might be an intermediate solution to that. I haven't really thought about it quite yet, but and I do have a laptop. But the other motivating factor there is that the heat pump is in the living room, and we get actual cold winters.
Yeah, what's snow?
Yeah, we don't often get snow, but the main reason for that is that most of winter is too cold for snow.
Oh, so you just get sleet and ice?
Sometimes you don't get that either. Like the rain just freezes in the clouds and doesn't come down.
Does it turn my tank stance off literally every time we go to a new set of floors? That's right.
I believe so.
Stupid. I think I did that whole last 10 floors without tank stance on.
I wondered why you kept having difficulty pulling things off of me. But yeah, so there is a certain amount of temptation there because there's certain kinds of loafing aesthetic that can only be properly fulfilled when flopped down on a couch. So, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. There are very few things more expensive than a sofa, other than cars and beds. So,
I can't stun it for the next one. We might be in trouble.
I don't have stuns. It'll only kill you though, right?
Well, it targets a random player with infatuation, so it could be either of us.
Well, we picked up Phoenix Tufts.
I think we haven't. A lot of the commander that cleanses it anyway.
But yeah, so I don't know that I've got much else to talk about for my week because it was mostly growling at my computer. Coming up, of course, is Holy Week. So today was Palm Sunday, which is the first reading of the Passion narrative in the liturgy for Catholics, or at least it is under the traditional calendar. I don't know if it is under the Novus Ordo or not, but it means we are well and truly entrenched in the holiest time of the year, which means that the tail end of this week that is approaching is going to be me spending it in church. So I'm going to be quite occupied with other matters, liturgical matters and religious matters, rather than what is enhanced benefic? Oh, it's a critical. So I won't be I won't be spending as much of my what is for other people free time. I'm not going to be spending goofing off, because there's quite a bit. There's a Thursday has a special liturgy for the Last Supper. Stations of the Cross is Friday morning. The Liturgy of the Passion is on Friday afternoon, and then Saturday evening is the Easter Vigil, which is the 4-hour long liturgy, and they're doing it according to the pre-1950 missal this year, so that means it's going to be even longer than usual. Because the 1962 missal is slightly shortened. It's not as dramatically shortened the way the Novus Ordo one is, but it's slightly shorter than the pre-1950. And since they're using that this time, it's going to be a very, very long vigil. I have not 100% decided to go, since it's always a bit rough finding a parking space due to the sheer number of people and the fact that there's no parking lot. So people just park everywhere. But yeah, I normally go to the vigil. It can be a bit taxing, because I go to quite a traditional church, and that being the case, traditional Catholics tend to have a lot of kids, and when you pack a lot of kids into a small space for 4 straight hours where they have to be silent, they get restless. Very restless.
And I imagine there will be many with babies and little baby carriers.
Yes, very many. Very many. Because it's pretty normal for a traditional Catholic family to have a gaggle of small children, a toddler, and a nursing infant at the same time. Mm-hmm. And there are quite a few families occupying this status currently. So it can get noisy, because everybody wants to go to the Easter Vigil. It's sort of the high holy point of the year. It's the longest, most elaborate ritual in the liturgical calendar, and everybody wants to be part of it. But there's only so much room in our minuscule chapel for these huge number of people. Like, normally, if I'm going to one of the main masses, I have to show up about half an hour early to make sure I get a seat, but for the Easter Vigil, it's more like an hour. So, yeah. Even that, then you'll still be competing for space.
Yeah. I will likely be incommunicado that this coming weekend at least, and maybe throughout the week for various Easter events. We're not as intense as you Catholics about it, but our church still puts on a lot of stuff at Easter, a lot of reach out programs, and a lot of community programs in the lead up week to Easter, and a lot of I think there is a service every single day of the week leading up to Easter. So they've called for an all hands on deck situation for all the regulars, because throughout this week we'll have so many new people come into the church.
In other words, they're going to strongly suggest that you help all the time.
It's going to be, Ari, please come save us. We need somebody to come do anything, because we've run out of people with functioning arms.
Yeah, that's going to be for Catholics. Easter doesn't end on the vigil either. Like, the vigil inaugurates the beginning of the Easter season. So in the octave of Easter, there's going to be a period of time where there's going to be like multiple masses every day. There's normally a minimum of 1 to 2 masses every day. Usually public masses, that is. The priest will say multiple private masses on their own. But what do these debuffs do? Knockback penalty and...
It's not really relevant to us. The only thing that means is we can't use the Manticore on this floor, because all of its damage comes from the knockback.
Right. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, it's going to be a liturgically busy season, but things will then wind down a bit as we go into what is in the Novus Ordo calendar referred to as ordinary time, which I thought was a strange name for it, but yeah. So I don't expect that I'm going to be doing as much goofing off anyway. I had to fight for the time off as usual, but I really need to try and strike a deal with the management to actually have some time off, because they just been coming up with an endless stream of excuses for why, oh, well, they just can't give me time off now, but don't worry, soon we'll be able to. It's always soon. And we had another 2 people resign this week past. So, yeah.
If we weren't in the current climate of a certain thing that pierces the skin as it pushes fluid into your bloodstream that may or may not contain lizard DNA in it.
Cottonmouths?
Yeah. If we weren't in the cottonmouth hiring scenario where you had to be bitten by a cottonmouth to get hired anywhere, I would say you've got to have accrued enough experience and be valuable enough that just about anybody would pick you up.
I don't know. I have. There are colleagues at work who I think are very valuable, and I respect their skills and their work ethic, and I think that they do a real good job, and I would pick them 1,000 times over some of my other colleagues. However, the ones that are getting hired by other places are almost always those other colleagues, even though I know that the ones that I think are really good are also applying for those jobs.
I guess brown nosing is a skill.
I don't even think they're good at that, to be honest. I think that there is a certain hiring culture in this country where they're always looking for someone who's a little bit subpar for certain positions.
I wouldn't know. I would have to know your work environment better.
Well, I don't even know if it's a work environment thing. I think that there's like some sort of weird cultural thing in New Zealand about not wanting to hire the best people because they might show you up or something. It's all very strange. It's all very strange, but it would jive with my personal experience, was just getting rejected out of hand and then seeing other people who are vastly inferior professionally to me get hired in my place. Like, this is not a matter of me interviewing badly when it's my CV that gets thrown in the bin. I don't even ever make it to the interview.
Do any of them have the opposite genitalia to you that are getting hired?
Most of them do.
That's why. That's why.
But well, you say that, but most of them also have much darker skin than me.
That's also why. This is like, I don't know how bad the diversity mandates are in New Zealand, but in the U.S. they are oppressively bad. Can we not be pacified and silenced every 3 steps? I'll come throw your cards at this thing.
There are no mandates. However, the actual cultural thing is so hegemonic that even if there were mandates, it wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, because we have actual diversity quotas that are enforced by various local governments, and I think even a few in the federal government if you work for any job that that gets money from, that receives money from them. But yeah, it's if you have a skin tone that is not white or is darker than the guy in front of you, or your genitals go up and inside instead of down and out, then you are more likely to get hired, and that's just it.
Yeah, well, the thing is that's really dumb as well, because like, not just from a logical perspective, but they almost always, for sample reception staff, and I got to preface this with the fact that when I say sample reception, that is not the same job as a receptionist, although a lot of the applicants think that it is. The sample reception staff that get hired are almost always female. Almost always. The very best sample reception staff we've had were all male, and it was not It was not close. They were vastly superior to their female colleagues at the job. They were more organised, more dedicated, more proactive. In every respect, they were better. And we just don't end up hiring male staff generally. And nobody else does either. I don't know where men go to work in this country, because they don't seem to apply for anything in my industry. But any of the men that would do work, it's not exclusively the case, because there are several female staff at work in technician positions, which I think are significantly better than some of the male staff in technician positions, and it's also not close, because when you're lazy, you're lazy. It doesn't matter what your gender is. If you're lazy, you're still terrible. But it's very frustrating how few men there are in the industry, and how definitively undervalued they are as a workforce. I don't really understand the reasoning. Maybe they're just sort of weirdly held to be too ambitious, because that would also jive with my experiences, that anybody who looks like they might be too successful tends not to be able to get hired as well. And if there's one thing that women stereotypically tend to do in professional settings, it's that they sit still and they don't climb the ladder. They're much more likely to do that.
Yeah, they do the work that's handed to them, and that's it.
So, I mean, as such, it's all of the technical stuff at work revolves around me. If I'm not there, they have to call the manager, and if the manager can't be reached, nothing happens. So, yeah, that could be viewed as ambition of a sort, because I have accelerated myself to that position in 3 short years. But yeah, I don't know. It's the whole thing is a bit bizarre.
Well, you're in a similar position to where I was, and you have a similar type of autism, at least when it comes to this kind of thing, where if something needs to get done and it's not getting done, you'll just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the king of procrastination on my normal list of things to do. I will always put things off and avoid them if I can possibly get away with it, but ultimately I get everything done, whereas it seems like a lot of people are willing to let the entire system crumble around them rather than lift a finger.
And that seems to be the way most people, and even most normies, react. But, I run my own small business now, because I just couldn't stand that everybody else was driving me insane. And most of them were old dinosaurs and honestly needed to retire anyway. But, yeah, I can't stand people that show up in an environment where other people are relying on them, and they don't try to get things done. Oh, hello, Mr. Mimic.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's enough being what's the phrase from Carnival Phantasm? A middle-aged man complaining about his day job. But
well, it's less the job itself. It's more the people and how normies act.
Yeah,
that we get so fired up about.
There are an awful lot of people in the workforce who are paid just as much as me, but they obviously come to work to eat their lunch.
Yeah, they come to punch a clock and do nothing.
Yeah, no, I've tried to explain this to other people as well, that are confused as to why we seem to attract such poor quality staff, and it's like I keep telling them, it's not about what they can or can't do. It's not about what their potential is. It's about the fact that there are 2 types of people. There are people who come to work to do the work, and there are people who come to work to fill out 8 hours before they go home.
Nope, I went too far. I'm done. I missed the gate. It's on the other side of the pillar.
Yeah, that's enough of that though. You can take a shot at relating your week if you like.
So my week was playing catch up at work from the Friday I was out, and the whole week kept getting just piled on by just more and more random crap. See, here's the interesting thing with customers. Ooh, my Aetherpool arm actually leveled up. It's 54 now. But the interesting thing about actually responding to customers within 24 hours... Oh, I'm going to be put to sleep. Oh, no, you're going to be put to sleep. They tend to like it when you get back to them faster, and then we'll send you more stuff.
What? You mean you can attract repeat business with good customer service?
And then, if you continue to do this every single day, they will send you even more stuff. And then, you have an inbox full of 9 different projects on a day that all started that day. And then, you are the only employee now. Because everybody else wasn't doing this. So you can't pawn this work off on anybody else. And so what you do is you sit your little butt down and you respond to all of that, knowing full well what this is going to do to you. That this is just going to cause the problem, in air quotes, to continue, and it will just keep getting worse. It's going to get to the point where I'm going to have to hire Abo. I don't think it's gonna... I don't think there's a way to get around it at this point. It's...
Well, he's not doing anything else, that's for sure.
He said he's willing to work for me, but I need to get the business into such an overloaded position the opossum would be okay with it.
You need to get the business into a position where the opossum is not involved in it.
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, but that's a bit down the road. Oh, whoa, what happened? Oh, luring trap. Where's the other one? Oh, it's back here. But yeah, it's just a mess at work, and I'm doing it all myself, and none of it is beyond my ability, and the workload is not beyond my ability, but I can feel it creeping up to ludicrous levels, and if it gets much higher, the bad days are going to turn into a true nightmare real soon. And I'm a little worried about it, but at the same time, it also means the business is doing much better. Oh, one of those stupid monsters dropped a silver chest. We need to go bop that on the way back when we run back to the gate.
I don't remember how cards work, that's why I haven't been using them.
It will just use whatever ones you want, probably on me or you. Doesn't matter. Just throw them around. The light blue ones go on melee and the purple ones go on ranged.
Right.
But yeah, I don't really know how to process this because it means that I was correct. Everybody else was doing a suboptimal job, and that's why we weren't getting as much business. And the company was in trouble because we were paying way too much in salaries to people who didn't do a job. And now that those 2 obstacles have been removed, we are now doing way better, but it also means I have a ton more work to do every day. It's like, on Friday I wrote 5 quotes, did 2 submittals, 3 purchase orders, and I think I did an engineering thing. I know I did that on Thursday. But still, that's a lot of work for one day, when each of those things by itself needs an hour of time to be done appropriately, to make sure everything's correct and double check it and make sure the factory's got it right. So yeah, I just, I'm still processing my position in life with work. It's weird being effectively a small business owner without the owner title, because I'm doing everything except answering the phone occasionally when I'm just too overloaded, and talking to customers the opossum already has a rapport with. He still does those things. But everything else, I've taken over.
Well, half the time he doesn't even seem to be there.
He's there. He's just in the rec room. He was snoring.
He's off hanging out with us high school friends and crap.
Oh yeah, that stuff. Yeah, he was doing that. On Thursday, he went to sleep in the rec room, and
That sounds useful.
And he was snoring so loud for like 4 hours.
He needs to retire already.
Yeah, he's gonna. I think he's 66 this year, or next year he'll be 66.
Isn't 65 the normal retirement age?
Yeah, but it keeps getting. I think it got bumped up to 67 or 68, but you can get grandfathered into the old retirement age if you were already like 40 or something. So I don't know where he falls or how the retirement stuff works.
But you're enabling him to keep drawing a salary while doing no work, so.
Well, he's still the technical owner. He has to choose to leave. He can't. I can't just say I'm the owner now.
Well, but you can make him pull his weight.
Yeah, I could.
I mean,
But
you have to clean up after it, but.
yeah, that's the problem. All this hard work I put in to make sure the company's back and functional would go down the tube if I did. So
I'm
yeah,
fairly sure he's just going to keep drawing that salary until the day he dies.
I mean,
Like, if he ends up a non-compos mentis, like, how are you going to get him to turn over the business?
oh, at that point I'll have me signed on as an officer, so I can declare him mentally incompetent with a lawyer present and take it from him. Yeah, he needs to. He said he's going to stick me on the officer list already this year. So when the next registration comes around, I'll be a proper officer in the company. As far as the legalities of everything is concerned, so I can jack the business from him when he runs into
When he becomes like Biden.
yeah, when he starts joeing it up.
How do you feel about being a Himalayan steppe?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, Joe Biden said that America could be summed up in one word, and that word was on the Himalayan steppe.
I don't know what he means by that. Joe says so
Well,
many.
he doesn't. He doesn't either. Like, he just broke off what he was saying and resumed like the middle of a completely different sentence.
Oh, Joe. Yeah, Joe says so many stupid things that I don't even process it anymore. Oh, come on. You were stunned.
I swear we are meeting way more debuffs this time than we usually do.
I swear I stunned him in time. But yeah.
So you did nothing but work all week.
Yeah, well, there was one more thing I did. I played Monster Hunter World, and Monster Hunter World has done a lot of things to accelerate your progress in the early game if you start fresh.
A lot of very controversial things that some people got really upset about for some reason.
Yeah, so as a returning player, these were a huge boon because I don't want to fight low rank monsters. Nobody wants to fight low rank monsters. They barely scratch your health and damage anyway, and they just take forever to kill. Oh, they don't take forever to kill, but they just waste your time. So they've given you a Defender series of weapons and armor. The armor has decent survivability related stats on it, if they're very generic, if that's what you want. And it's rarity 7, and you can get it at Hunter rank 1.
Well, it's basically, it was released around the time of Iceborne so that people could participate in the expansion content if they hadn't, if they didn't want to do the whole gear grind through World.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been abusing that to blitz through the game, and you knock over monsters so fast with that Defender stuff. And I just wanted to use it until I got into rank 8 again, because
my gut feeling is that they feel like even for that purpose that set was overtuned, because the equivalent set that they've done for Rise is much more moderate. It's more sort of like you are jumping to. You basically, it allows you to start at the low end of high rank gear.
Instead of right before the in-game grind in high rank.
Yeah, as opposed to everything but Elder Dragon gear.
Yeah. The Defender stuff is just better than everything rarity 7. Like, there are some purples that are better, and all the oranges are better, but still, that's really, really powerful gear. So I've been using that to blitz through the game, and surprisingly, it feels like most of my time is taken up by unskippable cutscenes.
That's not something you normally associate that strongly with
You want to use
Monster Hunter. Sure.
But yeah, the unskippable cutscenes have really been grinding on me while I blow through the mission so fast with the defender armor. Like, I just want to get to the hard monsters again. I'm not going to be able to build my account back up to what it was before. I'm not going to be able to do all the jewel grinding and or the decoration farming again, or the investigations again. But I would like to get in and attempt some of the Iceborne content that I just didn't. Where's that Wuching? Turn them all into animals. But I would like to see some of that content I didn't get to see before, which is the reason I'm playing. So I don't mind blitzing through all this older content. Unfortunately, you have to go out of your way to do a lot of optional garbage too. Like, go find the Palico tribes and stuff if you want to be able to mount and quickly get to the monsters, or you want
forgot about that.
or you want the equipment that you can give your Palico, like the Luderang and the Vigor Wasp and stuff. What did I do? Oh, that's what I did. Oh, I did not
light just lit up above at the top of my gauge now has 3 diamonds on it, and I don't know what they mean.
Every time you play a card of a different suit, so sun, half moon, or sun, crescent moon, and full moon, you'll build up the power of your buff. I forget what it's called now. They changed it with Endwalker. That you can push that hits the whole party. Or no, that was your self buff. That they changed it to be the self buff in Endwalker, and it's a new skill with a new name.
What do I have to use? Because I've used tons of cards, but only one of the things ever lit up.
You have to be in combat for it to count.
Oh. In combat when I draw, or in combat when I play?
When you play. Yeah, that's why when you hear me complaining on my Astro that we got out of combat just a hair too sooner than I thought, because it usually means I played the card at the last second of combat and wasted it and didn't get it in the gauge. And now I had to go fishing for that suit again. Because I try to stack up before every boss in a dungeon. I try to stack up all 3 different symbols. Because depending on how many different symbols fill that thing will determine the power of the buff.
So is this the one that's Estrodyne?
Is that what it's called now? Self-buff?
I don't know, I'm asking you. You're the one who mains Astrologian.
I forget what the new name of the skill's called. You'll should find it in your spellbook if you go to Actions and Traits and look under level whatever. Level 50.
We don't need it anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, do I have strength going still? Yep. I don't need steel for this. Yep. We'll just kick his butt. So yeah. Just kind of been chewing through that a bit. One thing that I've noticed about Monster Hunter World on PC is the modding community for it is very, very healthy. And the modding community has discovered that there is a bunch of really, really dumb stuff in Monster Hunter's base code that doesn't do anything. And there are several mods that just, their purpose is just to clean up Monster Hunter's code.
Wow, it does give a very strong impression of being a spaghetti code-ish game.
Does he have a knockback? No, he hasn't.
Oh
right, you gotta be underneath him when he makes you a feared, and he runs to the middle when he does it. That's what he does. So yeah. So the modding scene is very healthy, with Nexus mods having tons of mods for the game. And I've downloaded quite a few of them. The most important mod, of course, when there's a healthy mod scene, is the de-Neanderthal mod for female characters. So that was the first mod I got, because you know how bad Monster Hunter's characters can be. They
Yeah,
are.
it's like just default Skyrim to you.
So I don't have a screenshot handy, but I got a what I think is called like youthful feminine face mod to make my character not look retarded, and you can also get things like hairstyle mods because the hairstyles are kind of jank. And so I got one that was like extends the base ponytail to something that doesn't look stupid. So now you can have a long ponytail.
It doesn't sound like it looked like a top knot that has gotten saggy.
Yeah, it's a proper. I got the really long version, so mine's super long. But yeah, you can get those. If you turn on unfilter my search results in Nexus mods, you'll be horrified. Don't do that. Because the community for this game is apparently very thirsty.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Well, I mean that's the community for basically every video game. Like the thing that we have to either face with grim resignation or just go into denial and avoid acknowledging it all is that virtually every gamer who is not us is a raging Kuma.
I'm going to choose to believe that that's not the case. That everybody is sane and normal and does not have a brain in their lower sausage that runs their life, because that's too depressing.
No. The reality is that every gamer is has a cognitive timber of Kuka and sees everything through a very particular lens.
You know what? Just because I want to. Go get all the chests. Actually, I will let you get that one side room. I'm just going to go manticore on things.
The horde is in here. It's surrounded by dudes.
Oh, is it a treasure room? I'll come back. I got like a minute.
They're all facing away from me. Ah, that Hectizer is not facing away from me. Ah.
I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Man, I forgot how fat the stupid... But yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to go into denial about how Coomer infested the gaming in fact, the general populace is. Because I know it to be true. I don't deny the reality that it's true. I'm just going to choose to believe that it's not that way, because otherwise I'll go insane.
I mean, the public school system being groomer central would never have been able to be instituted without that being the case. The entirety of the population are just a bunch of oversexed lunatics.
Yeah. If you keep seeing my mouse on my screen, it's because every time I tab out, when I tab back into the game, I usually just leave the mouse there, and I forget that they can see it on the stream. So all the listeners are seeing my mouse just sitting there doing nothing on the screen. That's why. Because I play with pad.
Can't you turn mouse pointers off?
You can, but I haven't. And I would have to stop and find the option.
Yeah, I've got some motion blur going on. I've clearly got my graphics settings set up wrong for this monitor. There's getting a little bit of shimmer.
So yeah. And that's really it for week type stuff that I did. I just didn't have very much. The Monster Hunter stuff has been fun to go back and poke at. I do like World way more than Rise, but
Everybody does. There are basically, I've never heard of anybody say that they like Rise better than World as a general product. There are a lot of people who think that there are certain aspects of the combat are much better executed in Rise, but as a whole game, everybody likes World more.
Yeah, the ability to explore the much bigger levels in World. I think some of the movesets for the weapons just feel better in World, even though they're more restrictive. They force a more tactical brain when you're using them, because you don't have the get out of jail free wirebug moves.
Yeah, they're a little bit over the top. I do like the additional flexibility the greatsword has in the rise system. The amount of escapes you have is too many. It makes the greatsword much less tactical than it once was. However, the ability for you to trade damage away from true charge slash to your other alternate type of charge slash is an option that I like from Rise, because basically true charge slash is supposed to be the centerpiece of great sorting, but too much of the time you lose it due to just RNG bullcrap that you have no real control over.
Yeah, like
Like, you can plan everything perfectly, but if the monster isn't actually stunned, you'll miss the moment they just decide to twitch in another direction.
yeah, or a basil goose shows up and roars and ruins everything.
Yeah, well, it's not even just about the super armor, although there is a lot of super armor on Greatsword and Rise due to wirebug moves. It's also about the fact that the alternate charge slash finisher can be redirected at the last second. Because you've got to spend, several seconds charging up a slash once you actually make it all the way to that point in the combo. It's always depressing when you just lose it all. And in World, I often find that I hardly ever even use it, despite the fact that it's supposed to be the main source of damage for a greatsword, simply because there's too much chance you simply won't be able to get any mileage out of it.
Yeah, it's if that had exploded and killed us both, I would have laughed. But yeah, the I play mostly dual blades. They're my main weapon, and my secondary weapon changes depending on my mood.
I've never heard of anybody being particularly impressed with Rise dual blades.
They are simultaneously too good in how easy they are to use, and too bad in how their damage output feels compared to World. They have so many. We already had Demon Mode, and Demon Mode gives you a proper full dodge that goes much further than a normal dodge in World does, and the normal dodge does when you're using any other weapon, and they just decided that it would be K if you needed to do damage while you did that dodge too, right? And oh, by the way, your iframes are even bigger for some reason on the dodge. You know, the practically non-existent ones in World. We're going to put a few on the demon dodge because of how annoying it is to get knocked out. Oh, and by the way, whenever the monster roars, we're going to take you out of demon mode, so there's literally no reason for you not to keep it up the whole time, because if you remember in Rise, every time we would go on a hunt, I would have to go and make sure I had my food set up. And not the food at the canteen, the food I carried in my bag, because you needed food you could eat quickly just to refill your stamina bar. That was part of dual blades, because stamina management was part of the mastery of that weapon. And they just completely killed it, because the biggest problem was that you would get roared on by the monster, or they would do a ground tremor, or some minor thing that normally just disrupts combat for a second and makes you go back to neutral. And for dual blades, if you were in demon mode when they did that, your stamina didn't stop draining. Because when you're in demon mode, it's a continuous stamina drain the entire time it's active. But in Rise, they're just like, nah, we'll just turn demon mode off for you whenever you go into a state like that. And it makes dual blades a joke easy to play. Because there's no thought that goes into stamina management. What does plunge do? Oh, it's my charge. So yeah, I do not like the dual blades in Rise, and I haven't been able to attach to any other weapon. My primary secondary has been sword and shield, and it's a very simple. I'm gonna turn into a manticore, grab the chest, and
Primary, secondary.
yeah. So grab that and let's go. Pop a safety for me when we get there.
But my charge blade.
Yeah, I played Charge Blade for a little bit just to see what the community was raving about and why it was so OP, and it was overtuned in the original. And I don't know if they nerfed it in World, But
Well, all of the people that were raving about it were no longer raving about it for Rise, so I presume it wasn't quite the same as it once was.
yeah, the weapon is interesting. I think it's a fun weapon to use, but it was unfortunately soured by just how busted it was in base game world. It just outscaled everything else in raw damage and could obliterate monsters and take 5-6 minutes off your time to kill if you were playing solo. Like, it wasn't even close. So I never really got into it, but the basic sword and board I did like and I liked in World, and their additions in Rise are okay to it, but it's still a fairly generic weapon, and sometimes I want to play with something with a little more flavor to it. And I just haven't sat down and learned any of them in Rise, because dual blades just are too easy, and it doesn't feel like there's any type of reward for mastering it, because it doesn't feel like there is a way to master the dual blades in Rise. They just kind of are there for people that like to play a more dodge heavy playstyle. But now you can do damage while you dodge, so you don't even have to think about your dodges. So yeah, that's about where I stand with it. But I'll probably come back to Rise for a little bit when Sunrise comes out. I'll keep playing that on the Switch. I'm not going to rebuy that on PC because it never goes on sale and it's way too expensive. But
No, I'm not gonna buy it on PC. I'm gonna be playing Sunbreak on Switch as well.
yeah, but yeah, I enjoy Monster Hunter, but I just feel like Rise was such a step backwards. I know Fern is going to love everything Monster Hunter no matter what it is, but
I don't think he's so one-eyed about it. I think that he understands that there are things that are lacking in Rise, but
I'm gonna do the same thing as last time. So hang on.
we do have a safety? No, we don't have a safety. Be careful.
We got a site though that'll do just as well.
But yeah, it's I think Fern understands that there are issues with Rise, but like Rise is a different development team from the World team. They're not like totally isolated or anything like that. They do share a lot of their base code and that sort of thing, but they do things differently because the World was designed from the ground up to be a flagship product. I have a mimic. I'm bringing it. Yeah, World was designed to be a flagship product from the ground up. That was always what its role was to be. But there's always in parallel with that, there's sort of like the talk to the tick, which is the mobile offering, being being Rise in this case. The Switch, due to its nature as a piece of hardware, and it's to its advantage as a piece of hardware, it sort of blurs the line a bit between the sort of flagship home console and PC game versus the portable, since you can functionally use it as both. But there's a silver in here.
Yeah, I know. I was just going back to get the rage. We got it. I got it.
But yeah, it's I don't think that necessarily it's correct to characterize it as a step backwards from the developer point of view. I get where you're coming from the from our point of view as customers. Like, it's just not, Rise is just not the better game. But from Capcom's end, I think that they would characterize it as them dabbling in variations on a theme. And if you are going to experiment, I mean, you're going to sometimes do worse. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's I don't.
It's better than them just doing an annualized release of Call of Duty, which is always the same.
Yeah, I don't. I don't begrudge them for trying new things, or even the way Rise turned out, because it is on the Switch. It's got limitations, but
I mean, also, to be fair, it's still a decent game. Like, when you're comparing it to the sorts of other dross that's often on the market, it's still a solid game that wasn't completely balked beyond recognition on release.
yeah, it's just as a customer, when I was just recent, or when I started having my hankering to play something Monster Hunter like, and I had a choice of going back and playing more Rise and getting ready for Sunrise, or replaying through World from scratch on PC. I picked World.
Well, I think that the replay is incorrect to characterize it as an additional burden, because there's just more content that you didn't do in World, for starters, and secondarily you haven't touched that old content in quite a long time, and the level design is just so much better in World. A lot of the things that I think, like, overall design wise in Rise that have been inferior are things that are very, very, very system intensive, in my opinion. Like, the overall structure of the levels in Rise is very simple, and I think that probably conserves a lot of resources with the sheer simplicity of them. They're all very simple shapes, by and large, much closer to the older style of Monster Hunter level design. Whereas Worlds are very, very complicated environments that you basically have to load a whole bunch of complex features all at once.
Yeah.
Hence the loading times.
Yeah, so it turns out...
I wonder how much the spaghetti code contributes to that.
So I actually can tell you a bit about it. Not this isn't an in-depth analysis or anything, but my how do I put this? So I had loading times of approximately 5 seconds to preload and 10 seconds to load the map for a normal mission when I just had the raw PC with no mods. When I got the de-spaghetti the game mods, that went to about 1.5 seconds to preload the mission and about 3 seconds to load the mission.
Yowza.
So, where's the witching? Where's the witching? Where's the witching? Beef frogs. So, yeah. Every time I use a commander, by the way, I have to use a mouse. So, I have to, because the controller controls to get over there are quite bad. So, they're like open character in your character menu tab by pressing start, and then using the D-pad to navigate to it and press X. So yeah, I've been enjoying my replay through it. It's fun to go back and relearn all these old maps because they're just so cool. They have so many cool little secrets and places you can go and paths you can take, and relearning how not the wire bug, but the slinger works and its grapple points and stuff, and where those are on the map and how to get around quickly, and then remembering like things like, you know, the path up to Legiana that
Oh yeah, yeah.
that exists.
The super efficient one that you have to take if you want to farm.
Yeah, the one you'll learn if you ever farm a full set of Legiana gear. So it's just rediscovering, oh right, that was a thing. That's cool. And just how you, in multiple replays, you can find new paths up there. And
yeah, that's very much the strength that world level design has over Rise. You can discover things. There's really nothing of note to discover in Rise. Like, there's random poems around the place, but they're just like objects that have been hidden in various places. They're not things that you learn about the environment.
Yeah, you just take an afternoon to go get the collectibles.
I'm not in combat if you are in combat, but I haven't hit the thing yet.
Yeah, you have to take a hostile action or a beneficial action on somebody in combat.
There's some bullshit.
That's why you see me do wonky stuff at the start of a pull to make sure that I'm in combat before I play any cards.
Oh, damn it. Can I only redraw once?
Yes.
I'm deeply offended. Just FYI, by this whole scenario. That was the wrong button.
It's okay.
That's also the wrong button.
We're in the clear. But yeah, it's been fun to go around and rediscover all those little shortcuts and stuff. And I genuinely like that kind of thing in World. And I did not play Iceborne very much. I don't know how far you and Fern got. I
completed the base story, but that's more or less it.
Yeah.
I unlocked the guiding lands, but then I didn't know how to work the guiding lands. So when I went there, I just ended up killing like 6 Pookies and then getting bored.
Yeah. Watching Pookie explode in like 2 combos with a sword and board. No, I was using the switch axe because I was trying to diversify my playstyle a bit to have some fun. Was quite funny.
That OP, huh?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely busted. It's there just to zip you to endgame. Or to current content, I guess. What did these 2 moves even do? One heals me for a bunch. I haven't even read these 2 new moves I've been using because I've been focusing on the show stuff. Let's see.
Can I hold my Estrodyne charms indefinitely?
I think so. I'm pretty sure you can. Let's see. Salted Earth.
Makes you salty.
Yeah, Abyssal Drain. Restores on HP and restores MP. Okay. So yeah.
Abyssal Drain shares a cooldown with an equivalent single target off GCD.
Oh, I think I have it
later.
Yeah, I think I have it on my bar preset in the same position for right trigger where my single target.
It's a green icon, but I can't remember what it's
called.
called.
I did do that then. Oh no, stepped on a landmine.
Why would you do this?
Pushed every button except for the living dead one.
Please don't push that button. That's worse than Super Glide. Because it won't be immediately obvious what happened. Which is the big advantage of Super Glide. Is that you immediately know bad things need to be resolved if someone hits Super Glide. If someone hits Living Dead, you need to notice. Oh. Otherwise it's like you and every boss that has Doom.
Oh, dearie dear. So yeah, I haven't played much Final Fantasy at all since Elden Ring came out. Elden Ring kind of ate my life for a whole month and some change.
Elden Ring didn't eat as much of my life as I would have liked to, because I was trying to do too many things at once, and I didn't end up playing it as much as I wanted to. And now that everybody has stopped playing it, it's going to be harder for me to motivate myself to play it, because I needed the hype cycle to help to motivate me, since I don't have a natural affinity for that type of game. Like, if all things are held equal, and you offer me a Monster Hunter-like game and that style of combat on one hand, and Elden Ring on the other style of combat, I'll pick Monster Hunter every day and twice on Tuesdays. Like, that's just my preferred style of combat is Monster Hunter. That's how I prefer to fight my big chunky beasts. Which is not to say that I overtly dislike Elden Ring, it's just what was motivating me to play it was the amount of fun other people were having with it, and now that everybody's done with it, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to get going, especially if Sunbreak drops, because 6.1 or whatever it is coming out for FF, which is going to draw my attention, and then Sunbreak will come out, and it's like, well, Elden Ring is there, but I got to kind of remember, what's Collective Unconscious do?
You push it, you get locked in place, and you put a bubble around yourself. Oh, you don't get locked in place, but as long as you don't move or do any other action, you channel a bubble that reduces damage taken and puts a hot on everybody that stands inside of it.
It explains why it seemed to do nothing, because I was moving when I used it.
Yeah, it's you have to make sure you're in full neutral before you push that button, because I have very often pushed it at the very end of movement, and my character hadn't quite stopped moving yet. and the bubble just kind of pops and goes away. That said, it's not a bad thing to just sometimes pop it quickly and then turn it off, because it's an extra hot that's instant, that's AoE. So if you don't need to sit there and hold the channel on it, you can use it as a hot cooldown. I don't do that very much, but I do it sometimes. It's not very strong hot, but it's better than nothing. My goodness.
You ever get a third charge for draw?
I think it says it too.
Or are we stuck with 2?
I think you're stuck at 2.
I think 2, more than 2 might be a bit too much convenience.
Yep. Just gotta keep building that deck. that mini game you gotta play the whole time.
I keep forgetting to tag a monster.
Yep. Happens to me every time we do a dungeon.
I'm not liking this. This is not my jam, I don't think.
Oh, I'm a frog.
Are you a healthy frog?
I am a green frog.
Green is the color of health, right? I guess it's also the color of sick.
It's also the color of poison in some Japanese media.
No, it's more commonly the color of poison in Western media. I think purple's more common in Japan.
I get them backwards. Yeah, I've been totally... Anybody watching me play Dark Knight, number one, is I don't have this class I barely played it. Number two,
excuses.
I have not been paying attention at all to what we're doing.
There's nothing to it at your level. You just hit whatever buttons light up. Basically.
Yeah. I'm just.
There's not really anything else to be done. Like most tanks are like that. Like it's not until you've got a full kit for the expansion that you actually have to do anything in particular. Other than that, just keeping things on cooldown is usually enough.
Is this the right way? Yeah. We can check up north. Why not? We're almost level 60. And then we can start ignoring pathways. Yeah, why not? So yeah, there ain't a whole lot to talk about with what's been going on either, unfortunately. I'm trying to think of something we could talk about. I guess we can check our news stuff.
I haven't seen any particularly exciting news.
We can take some time to dunk on Blizzard some more.
What have they done now?
They have taken Hearthstone money grubbing to a whole new level. So,
really? There's another level?
Oh, yeah. So you know how in Hearthstone you could have the regular cards and the gold cards and they would be animated a little bit? Most online...
I don't know anything about Hearthstone.
So, in Hearthstone, whenever you pulled a card, it had a chance to be golden. It was something like a 5-ish% chance, I think. And this card would have a slight animation to its card background and the character on it, and
it's foil.
Yeah, and it would sparkle. Well,
it's a foil.
Yeah, basically, and they have decided they can do more. What if they sell for $25 a diamond version of that card?
It almost sounds like that's the joke I would expect Penny Arcade to tell.
Yeah, but Blizzard's totally serious. The Drekthar card, I don't have a clue what this card does or how good it is, but it has a diamond version. I think you can just straight up pay them like $25 to make your card diamond.
Why? Like, is this some sort of like a dick waving thing that people do?
I guess so. I mean, I had all golden decks, but it's because you could spend if you got more dupes than you needed. they would convert into dust, and you could use that to craft cards, and you could use it to craft the gold versions of cards, or convert your basic cards into the gold versions for a cheaper fee. So I mean,
by the way.
Yeah. Oh, right. We are. So we ain't got to stop and kill absolutely. Well, we got to kill everything in this room because it's all guarding the door. But yeah, we. I mean, I would make all gold decks like that, but that was all stuff you could do with the resources in game that you would naturally accrue just because you had too much dust if you played a lot, and it was kind of a completionist thing. But this has nothing like that. This doesn't say you played the game a lot and were able to eventually accrue enough stuff to gold out your deck. You just handed Blizzard $25.
I'm just sort of I don't want to believe that people will do this, but
You know they will.
they're still playing a Blizzard product after all.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that still buy every storm out that comes out on that dead game WoW.
Yeah. I don't even know how to phrase what I want to say. It all goes back to TRH.
Yeah, it was at the top of a very long and steep slope.
You know, I hear from so many people, slippery slope is a fallacy. Except for the part where slippery slope is always proven to be correct.
Well, it's because the idea of a fallacy is dramatically misunderstood by people because they don't realize that there are two classes of fallacy. There is not one class of fallacy and it's logical fallacy. There are two classes of fallacy: formal fallacy and informal fallacy. And a formal fallacy is where something does not follow. Like to say A equals not A, it would be a formal fallacy because it's not possible. You can't do that. It's illogical. Doesn't make sense. But an informal fallacy depends on the content. It's not oh well, you actually can't make this reasoning. It doesn't make sense. Like, you know, A equals B and C equals D, therefore A equals D is not logical, right? But saying that after this, therefore because of this, doesn't necessarily not hold. It can be that after this is therefore because of this.
Mm-hmm.
That can be true. It's just that it's not a valid method of making an argument on its own. However, it is something that can be true about a scenario. And the slippery slope is like that. Just because one thing happens does not mean that the next slightly worse thing is going to happen. That doesn't hold logically. However, it is often the case that it happens that way.
Yeah, just because it won't necessarily happen that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly likely to happen that way.
Yes, I mean you can even make the argument that, oh well, because of these reasons, having X having happened makes it more likely that Y will happen. Are we supposed to be tanking these or killing these or what?
Kill the boots. I forgot about the boots.
It's just not. It's not a move of formal logic to say that it is logically necessary that X having happened, therefore Y worse thing will happen. That's not a logical inference, but it is often a pragmatic induction that you're going to make as a result of, you know, past experiences. Are we able to dodge that? Were we supposed to do something?
I don't think so. I don't think you can do anything with that. I think that does more damage and does more scary things the more boots are alive when he does it.
Right. It's not really suitable, but you can have it.
Yeah, I love getting groups where I'm the only ranged, because it just whenever I draw a ranged card, I don't know what to do with it, because I'm not going to put it to as much use, even though I get the full benefit from it, as me just pitiful percent up it gives to a melee character. More often than not, I just waste it and throw it away on you. Because if it's at least if it's the suit I want. So yeah, that's Blizzard being dumb.
That's so cringe.
Yeah.
My goodness.
You know, TB and others, ourselves included at the time, way back when TRH was first added, we told you people this is a dangerous slope to go down. It's going to get worse. And it was like, nah, it's fine. It's just one storm out. Slippery slope fallacy.
I remember TB being way more optimistic than that, though. Like, his complaints about TRH were that it was stupid of people to purchase it because there could be no prestige attached to such a thing. He did not actually complain that, oh, well, this is a slippery slope so much.
I suppose that's
He
true.
thought that it was a bad thing to do that would train people to think in bad ways if they were suckered in by it. Those things are both true. However, that things would get so much worse was not something that he was arguing.
Yeah, now we have paid level boosts and goodness knows what else. We got all kind.
The entire edifice has become spectacularly corrupt, as like I talked about previously. There's so much of everything seems to hang on TOS breaking behavior, facilitated for the sake of the top 0.01% of guilds type of thing.
Yeah. It's Blizzard has so many issues right now. I don't know what kind of mind you have to be to support a company after they burned you this hard so many times. And like just the WoW Classic player base, the people still hanging on after they've just had Blizzard take a dump in their mouth over and over again. The people that are still left, I don't understand. Because I don't care that much about the main game. It just kind of exists, but I'm a little interested in the classic community because I enjoyed what little I played that community. And
it's from an earlier time though, when the game was designed in a different way. Like, I suppose, like, one of the things that was lost, for instance, like leaving aside all the community stuff, because it's obvious that communities change over time, and the way the community is structured is influenced very heavily by the way Blizzard implements its grouping systems and so on. But the thing that I've always noticed is missing from modern WoW, and it's missing in a lot of ways from Final Fantasy as well, but in Final Fantasy it doesn't matter since that's not the point, is that there's no sort of aspirational dimension to World of Warcraft. Like, you can't see a guy with cool gear and then say, oh, I want to be like him, so I need to start raiding Mythic or whatever so that I can look like him. Because, you know, gear from all difficulties looks roughly the same now, just with a little bit of a colour change and maybe different shoulders for Mythic. And generally speaking, there's just not an aspirational culture. Instead, there's a culture of entitlement where they think that something is wrong if the top echelon of people get something that the rest of people don't have. What they're basically trying to replace that with is this whole, you know, race to world first hype. To treat it like an esport of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of that, which is why you've got this absolute clown fiesta of TOS breaches and poor dungeon design and that in the back end of the game. Like, from all accounts, a lot of the fights in the new raid tier are extremely good. However, because despite their blatant lies to the contrary, this is basically, this last tier is two raid tiers mushed together. The back end of the new raid tier in Mythic is so spectacularly, unreasonably, wall-bangingly difficult that it's basically not able to be enjoyed by the rest of the player base. because it's like you know, it's always the case that the back end of a raid dungeon in World of Warcraft is harder than the front end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's usually there's like early bosses, middle bosses, and the absolute gauntlet that's the back end of the dungeon. It often works like that. But in the case of this current raid tier, it's sort of like there's the front end bosses and then there's two sets of back end bosses because they obviously had two sets of encounters that were designed for two different raid dungeons that have now been mushed together. So the whole race to world first process, despite all the other crap that went on, was an unbelievably harrowing process this time round because the bosses were just so ridiculously difficult and lots of players were just burning out as they went because of how difficult it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's designed that way because the only aspirational thing left in the game are those top guilds and what little sort of respect they still carry for the population of the game at broad. And it's really not really enough to keep the game going, to be honest.
Yeah, you gotta pop the chest because I'm Manticorian.
Okay.
But yeah, I think there's another aspect that ties into that, and that the game nowadays has lost its sense of finality with its accomplishments. Where before, if you got your tier set, the tier set was unique and memorable and something to aspire to that you saw somebody in Ironforge walking around with. And then there's also the finality of it, that they're done. They don't have to grind anymore.
This is that design fallacy that has plagued MMOs classically, but lots and lots of games now. Is that in order for you to make a successful game, it is needful to prevent your customers from playing any other games.
Yeah. And
that's like all through World of Warcraft is systems designed to force you to constantly play that game. And it's why so many people have been so relieved to come to Final Fantasy XIV and realize that most of that pressure is off. They don't really care if you wander off to play another game for a few months because their design team's priorities are not centered around forcing people to play nothing else.
Yeah, it's like there's just so much stuff in the original WoW, even in BC, that was like you could just do it and get it done, and then you had done something, and that was over for that character now. But it was still something that you accomplished. Like when I was playing WoW Classic, the big thing that stood out to me was farming up Crusader enchant at Tyr's Hand. Like that experience, while not the most fun thing in the world, is an accomplishment if you manage to do it. And you can't do anything like that in modern WoW.
Yeah, because they've got to keep that treadmill going. They won't stop. I think that the easiest way to illustrate this is actually Legion expansion, as I experienced it, which was, how do I say, it used to be, and this is the simplest example I can think of, when you got your BIS, you had BIS, right?
Okay, I don't.
Best in slot.
Okay, BIS. Okay.
When you got BIS, you had BIS, and you were done with your gear build because you had BIS. And Legion had Warforging and Titan Forging. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
You could just proc extra item levels at random, meaning that you could never, ever have BIS. You just couldn't.
Yeah.
So you just had to keep spamming those mythic dungeons, show up to every single raid long after the raid tier was over and you're waiting for the next one. Because you couldn't ever have finished. You couldn't ever be completely prepared for the next tier and you couldn't finish the current tier.
And God forbid some trinket or something that remains best in slot multiple tiers for certain builds. Oh, good gravy.
That was the case because there was that one trinket which was just a colossal clump of raw stats, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Which came from one world boss that would spawn at random. Do you have a frog?
Yeah.
Zukibus.
Yeah, she's like, oh, we'll do that.
Yeah, it was just completely. Oh my goodness, you're gonna survive this.
I should be okay.
But yeah, it was just an incredibly demoralizing thing because you had to go and get that sodding crystal for that enormous raw stat stick that goes in the trinket slot because everybody loves stat stick trinkets because they're non-situational, unless a proc trinket or a used trinket was broken for some particular purpose, like absolutely mandatory. People would always prefer an enormous stat stick, which this thing was, and it was, Legion launch content, but you could Titan Forge enormous ones.
Yeah, so
And having done that, like you would never ever be able to finish. Like I had one, I was lucky. I got a really powerful, I can't remember what this Warforged or Titan Forged one, which is something like 20, 30 item levels, some ridiculous number of item levels. I don't remember the contextual scale. It was a huge number of item levels higher than base. And it massively outscaled all of the trinkets from all of the raids that we were doing. And people were green with envy that I had this thing drop. And I had it drop on a tank, so it was not nearly as much of a benefit to me as it might have been for some other people. But it was just people were salty because not only was it theoretically possible, they had me in the raid dangling this enormous stat stick in front of them. So they knew it was possible because they were reminded every time they looked at my gear that I had this giant stat stick. And that, oh, well, I guess now I have to wait for that world quest to pop, and every time it pops, I need to go all the way out there to whatever that zone it was in, and do that boss again, along with everybody else, with the server lagging to oblivion because the way the WoW server makes calculations is insanely overcomplicated and slows everything down the more actions are taking place in one spot.
yeah.
And they get locked into this loop of doing it because you can't ever have BIS. So long as that thing exists, you can't ever have BIS. And in a conventional context, that would have been BIS for like the first raid. It would have been BIS for pre-raid, and would have been BIS for most of the raid except for when you have specialized trinkets. But the fact that you could keep Warforging and Titan Forging it to the stars meant that throughout the expansion, you basically couldn't stop farming for it. I think you probably could later on because the odds got so low that you would be able to get a decent proc to replace something from a more current tier, but it was still such a powerful piece of gear that for most of the expansion, people were just locked into hoping that they would get a good one.
Compare that to the journey that people would go on to get, like, their Blaze Fury with Mongoose on it for combat rogues or something. And this whole ordeal they had to go through, and they were rewarded with a really powerful weapon at the end.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it was also not very random.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you had to farm a bunch of motes and primals, but you could also buy out a lot of that stuff. Or hire somebody to get you the parts that you wanted or whatever. Like, you had ways around that if you really wanted to. But ultimately, it was relatively deterministic.
Yeah.
You could decide that this is what you wanted to have, and within certain constraints, you could guarantee that by a certain time you had it.
Yeah. As long as you put the work in, you could get it. And then once you got it, you had it. It was yours. You were done. And
So didn't know anybody who actually... I think my brother might have gotten that one once, but most people were laser focused on Stun Herald.
Oh yeah, I had a combat rogue, so I had it, but so that's why it popped into my head. But I had my girlfriend at the time pay for half of it.
Your sugar mama.
Yeah, she was rich in that game. All she did was make money in her free time, and I would, because I was a terrible little teenager, I would whine to her to give me money all the time.
Wow, you really are a scumbag.
I was a teenager. I don't know what you want from me. I was a middle range teenager as well. I was like 16, 17.
The worst kind of teenager.
Yeah.
Exactly old enough to think that they're already an adult, but young enough to know nothing and be as stupid as you are at any point in your life.
Yeah. It's like enough that you are now aware as a human being that you exist, but still have all that kid dumb and kid selfishness.
I think it's significantly magnified through the lens of being a teenager, though. Like, I think that most young kids have at least a dim conception of how retarded they are compared to the adults around them.
Yeah.
But teenagers think that they are adults while still having all the kid dumb, so it amplifies it.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, these are things that I remember doing and accomplishing, and there is nothing like that in current WoW. So I just do not care, because if I can't accomplish anything, why would I play the game?
Yeah, no, that stuff lasts as well. Like, I went back and I made, what was it? I made one of those. I might have been Blaze Fury, actually. I don't remember exactly. I went back and made one of them like during Cataclysm or something, because I wanted the weapon model. That was all. I just wanted the weapon model.
Yeah.
I wanted to have it so I could wear it and stand around in org.
Yeah. I remember the journey you had to go through in Burning Crusade to get that thing. It was no small feat to farm those motes. And especially if you wanted to craft... I think you had to craft it yourself. So you had to level your blacksmithing, and if you hadn't started yet, that in and of itself was part of the journey there.
Yeah, but I mean, they've got sort of like the vestiges of that still exists in Final Fantasy with the relic weapons. Like, they're all designed around the fact that people like that type of content, that deterministic content where you can embark on a journey and then build some spectacular relic at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it doesn't really exist so much in World of Warcraft now, and their attempts to ape it have been disastrous. In this recent expansion, they've had a legendary system that has multiple tiers of crafting that require you that are required in order for you to build up to like your 7th tier legendary weapon or whatever, and you can buy a certain amount of this sort of stuff. I don't know how the system works because I don't play, but from what I've heard, it's been absolutely catastrophic for the economy, and it's just turned into a humongous gold sink that has precipitously raised the barrier to entry for raiding, because there's a certain amount of legendary that you're expected to have now. Legion was a terrible idea for legendaries. Like, making them so commonplace has now become a thing that they do.
As opposed to just a really rare and powerful raid drop like they used to be.
They have no rarity value whatsoever. Everybody is expected to have a menagerie of them.
Like, before, if you had your Warglaives or your Thunder Fury or your Sulphurous Hammer or whatever, it meant more than just you had a really powerful weapon. It meant you had high standing in a guild that was able to do something. And we can look back on that content now, because I have seen people make this incredibly stupid argument, that that content was really easy, so it wasn't really nobody cares. At the time, it was a status symbol. Not everybody could do it.
Not everybody could go through all the effort of having their bindings ninja'd from them.
Yeah. And that made those legendaries special. And they gave you a sense of player identity, which we come back to time and time again.
And they gave servers at large a sense of drama, because there was invariably a huge amount of drama surrounding the crafting of every Hand of Rag and every Thunder Fury.
Yeah, and there was one that, even in BC with the Warglaives, there was all kinds of drama. But it was still, if you saw a guy with the glaives, he either backstabbed a whole lot of people to get that thing, or get those things, or he...
Well, he was either famous or infamous.
Yeah.
It was going to be one or the other.
And it gave him a personality. It helped that individual player become a character, as it were.
Or the most hated man on the server.
Yeah. But still, that's something memorable that gives you an experience. Is there anything like that you can do nowadays to make yourself known as an individual? No.
I think you pretty much have to destroy a major raiding guild to accomplish that.
I mean, I'm pretty good at that. We can if we really want me to.
But even that news probably won't move outside a certain small circle of people on a given server.
Yeah, it's just there is no identity on the server. Like, even though I wasn't the toppest of top tier player all the time, and I wasn't doing the hardest content all the time. Even in the down times when I was playing and not really raiding super hardcore, everybody on the server knew who I was, and I knew everybody else on the server, on every server I played on. At least all the people that interacted with the world and other players.
Bleeding Hearts and Dramatan.
Yeah, like I knew the people on Duratan, I knew the people on Echo Isles, I knew the people on all the other servers I played on. But if I ever got really engaged with playing with the communities there, everybody just knew everybody.
I noticed the same thing like that because I spent the bulk of my time playing and during up to the end of Wrath of the Lich King. No, up to the first tier of Wrath of the Lich King, because I stopped playing after I realized how bad Nax Ramus was. I had played on Bartholus throughout the entire span, and basically everybody knew everybody on Bartholus. And I moved around after that, and I had no compunction about doing so because nobody knew anybody from about Cataclysm onwards.
Yeah, the server just became where character was stored. It had nothing to do with the type of people you would be around. There were genuine server communities back then, like and types of servers with different types of players and people, and you would know not to go to Duratan if you didn't want a whole bunch of drama, and you would know not to go to Echo Isles if you didn't want a bunch of spazzes. And there were, I forget which ones were, but there were infamous guilds that just had a bunch of super tryhards that would scream at you.
I mean, every guild on Manoroth or Tychondrius.
Yeah, those two. But you don't get that anymore, and that just kind of takes even more out of my desire to care or play WoW. You know what? I'm just gonna look for the exit. There's a lot of mobs in that room.
Yeah, Blizzard have made a hash of their game, and they've made an even bigger hash of their so-called storyline. And honestly, I don't think that I've heard of anybody who's feeling very motivated to play. There's a lot of artistic stuff that people like about the new patch, but he's line of sighting me. But generally speaking, the story is very poorly received.
He ain't moving.
Apparently, the novel that Christy Golden wrote to try and band-aid their clown behaviour with writing Sylvanas is actually apparently the novel, or at least the first half of the novel, which deals with stuff that doesn't happen in the game, is actually pretty good, supposedly.
Yeah, when it comes to WoW novels, you hear people praise them a lot, and then I go read them, and they're just mediocre.
Well, I think that for franchise tie-ins, mediocre is the best you're ever going to get, so you should thank your lucky stars if you manage to hit mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it do be what it be. I'm just going to pull guys until the exit opens and we can leave this floor, because it seems like every floor has dudes in it. Alright, he has that move.
What does that move?
It just does a bunch of damage.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, it instantly kills you, or something like that.
No, it just hits hard. But yeah, and I just kind of, I don't know. We're reminiscing more than anything else, but it is sad to see Blizzard go down this perpetual treadmill, milk all the players for all the sub money and micro purchase money they can route, because the memories are still there of what they once had, and they threw it all away for money owes.
Well, I don't think that they can make an about face very quickly. Like, if you look at the way their dev team is operating, it's operating in end of expansion mode, which means that they've got enough development done that the devs that are just working on live WoW are able to sort of run free and make modifications and change things however they want. Because the last patch is out, the Race to World First is over. Now they can change anything that they want, and most of the stuff that the quality of life stuff that the player base has been asking for has been getting done, and relatively quickly by Blizzard standards, because they aren't being controlled by the grand plan anymore. And I suppose with our boy Bobby stepping away, and with a bunch of the worst actors from their sexual harassment scandals, who are also a bunch of the worst actors in terms of development and of the game going forward. With those people gone, I mean, there is a non-zero possibility that they could turn things around for the better, provided that it turns out it really was Bobby's influence at the top that was driving things. But as their priorities were at the start of the expansion, the very orthodox, oh, we just need to force people to never play anything else, and they will just somehow have fun doing that. With that being in place, there was only so much they could do. You build up a lot of momentum on that plan, and you can't make an about face at the last minute very easily. But I suppose that it will be very, 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 very telling what happens in this next expansion.
Yeah.
Because it's got a very underwhelming premise. And
what even is it? I haven't even looked at it.
Dragons and shit.
Oh, okay.
But it's got a very underwhelming premise, and they've had 2 stinkers in a row now. Like, most people thought that they couldn't recover from 2 stinkers in a row, and now we are going to see whether whether or not you can recover from 2 stinkers in a row.
Grab that chest. I just popped a rage. I'm doing it raw.
So they've had their 2 stinkers now, and now it remains to be seen whether or not they can learn enough lessons from their 2 stinkers in order to, somehow pull something out.
Yeah.
From the last one. But it's sort of hard to tell what they were really thinking throughout this expansion, because everything that they have said about their development, whether it's like the development cycle or the story writing or anything, everything that they have said has been a flagrant and obvious lie to everybody watching, even the layman. And so it's sort of hard to tell what they were actually thinking, because they'd thrown up such a haze of lies and half-truths about what they had intended and what they have accomplished, that it was very, very difficult to get any real sense of what their priorities were. So they can start with an almost clean slate the next time round. They can just memory hole everything that went before as far as they are concerned internally. The question is that, having done so, can they recapture any player confidence? Because player confidence is at an all-time low.
Yeah, they have a lot of they have a lot of shoes. Oh crap. Oh, I can still use abilities though. That works. I'm out of buttons to push.
All I could do was buff you.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in Blizzard. Most people, I imagine, don't have any faith in Blizzard at this point. They're just going to... The way they've treated the WoW Classic community is more telling than anything else, because they're mad and that they don't want to admit how butthurt they are that WoW Classic was super popular, because they killed that game. Aside from going back on their promises, which was the death knell for the game, it is just plagued by other issues. The biggest one being bots and gold sellers.
Yeah, well, they never wanted to admit that it was popular.
Yeah,
because that would be an indictment of the decisions that they'd made ever since that point.
Yeah, and so it just and the way they're treating the upcoming Wrath re-release, and the way they've handled the stuff during BC with all these alternate weird modes that don't have anything to do with the spirit of Classic, it shows how butthurt they are that the decisions they made weren't successful, and the fact that they were willing to just torpedo that project internally instead of actually putting in the appropriate amount of effort to keep it sustained should tell you everything.
Well, Wrath was like the most popular of the old school expansions by a long mile, and nobody cares.
Yeah. All right.
You're going to need to refresh me on how we actually do this.
I'm going to have to refresh me on how we actually do this. I don't do her very much.
I did pin the guide if you need to look for it.
Yeah, I've got it.
I don't know where I pinned it, but I did pin it.
Yeah, I've got it around here somewhere. I just got to find it. Uh, so, yeah, you can entertain them while I dig this up. I'll be a sec.
Well, that's not fair. The whole reason that we have more than one host is so that people don't have to entertain the peasants sitting in the stalls. But
I thought I totally did. There it is.
yeah, well, this was a foregone conclusion, though. I think it was just a fond hope everybody was entertaining that Blizzard wouldn't clown it up, but of course they did. And it's always come down to their pride. Like, since the very early days, they've had this whole it's very California and very left wing attitude.
Okay.
What is the phrase? Is no negativity in the dojo, which I think is an Afrosabi phrase, who has since been ushered on in disgrace. But yeah, basically their attitude was that you couldn't criticize anything because that was negativity and it was bad.
So she alternates donut and close range circle AoEs, and she randomizes which order she does them in. And then if you get hit by them, runes light up on the floor, and when she does her unavoidable AoE, it does more damage based on how many runes are lit up.
So we don't have to do anything except not stand and poop?
Yeah. Stand in, and the poop you have to react to it pretty fast from memory.
Okay.
So you might want to get close-ish to her. Be ready to run in or run
Well,
out.
I don't know how close I need to be.
That run in.
Oh, that's very close indeed.
So yeah. It's it's a mess at Blizzard. I don't have look away. Forgot she had that.
You would have had to tell me to look away a lot earlier than that.
I forgot she had one. Okay, we only lit up one rune. We should be okay. I think she summons ads at one point too. We probably have to kill those. Maybe.
I made poor decisions.
Oh,
what? No. But I was facing away. Do I have to be standing at a distance as well?
I'm up in melee, and I didn't get hit by it. I think it just goes off.
It wasn't. I wasn't even slow. Like I turned away like fully 6 seconds in advance just to be sure, and it didn't work.
We survived it. Nope. Okay, you're okay then.
And I was much, much later that time. Must be something that's not in sync between what I see on my screen and what's happening in the server.
It might just have a weird timing with the server text. And the way its animation plays. Oh, she can do that on other people? I thought she could only do that on the tank. Oh, learned something new. Oh no, that's right. They just do AoE. Man, I actually have MP now with all these extra buttons. Yeah, this boss actually has mechanics, so because we can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, that's why you're getting a bunch of dead air now. But we'll probably call it after this one. We're already waffling on stuff to talk about because there just ain't a whole lot happening right now. And
yeah, the only thing that actually sort of like moved me to mild interest was the announcement of the new Monkey Island game.
Yeah, I saw you posted that, but I'm not a huge Monkey Island fan. Abo is. He loves Monkey Island. But I am not, and so I don't hate it, but I'm not a super fan.
Well, you have to have sort of like played them growing up, I think,
Yeah.
in order to really have an attachment to them and their sort of oddball sense of humor. But it's interesting that they're reviving it, especially since they're reviving it in I think that they're reviving it with the original guy that created it,
That's cool.
Ron Gilbert.
That's cool. So
Yeah. Most of the stuff of real interest to me is in the Final Fantasy patch, but that's coming out. Is it coming out this week? Is this this upcoming maintenance?
yeah, I think
For
that's the dealio with it. Is we're getting that super maintenance. No, I don't care what you do here. You're not who I want to talk to at all. Who's the appraiser dude? I forget. Oh, the bishop? Yes. Let's see what we get in our loot sacks.
Alright. Loot sacks. See what useless garbage I'm gonna get this time. Terrible.
Dinosaur leather gloves. Oh, I got a sparkly.
Let's see.
Oh, Moonfire trunks. Swimsuits for boys. That'll sell.
Elegant platinum piece. So, at least Killer's useful.
Firework. At least give me the Moonfire suit for girls so I can sell it. Come on.
Quick tongue materia.
A whole bunch of fireworks. So yeah.
Fireworks.
Oh, I got a super flash. Ooh, I got a hairstyle. Samsonian locks.
I got a hat. It's not even a nice looking one.
Oh, I got another super flash. Palace pedestal table.
Midget prism. Oh crap, my inventory's full.
You and your...
I really need to, I need to clean this out. Well, the thing is that I was running trusts right, and I basically didn't throw anything away.
Oh, I was OCD disenchanting stuff on the fly in there because I didn't care about the EXP.
I'm not even sure if I can disenchant stuff because I've got full inventory. I can move one thing to my armory chest or something. I can move those to the armory chest.
Oh, dearie me.
Gear must be placed in its proper armory chest. I am placing it in the proper armory chest. Don't give me that crap.
So
I
yeah,
don't want to hear that from you.
I do not have any game I'm particularly attached to right now. I'm playing Final Fantasy and having fun with it, but it's not a game that feels like it's going, and nor is it trying to super attach me. It's because it's just a game that'll always be there with stuff to do with people.
Yeah, I appreciate it for that.
So I'm not really in the hype cycle for anything.
I am personally in the hype cycle for Sunbreak because it's what I've been waiting for quite a while now. But I mean, I totally understand most people not being that hyped for it because most people would have been happier to get a second expansion for World since it's just the better game. But I like Monster Hunter stuff generally, and I'm content to play Rise with other people. It's not as fun to play solo as World is to play solo. World is a much better solo game to play. It just feels more complete in a lot of ways. But I'll deal with it. I can deal with it. I'm not that bothered by Rise's foibles. I like a lot of things about Rise, particularly as far as the greatsword is concerned, and there are things that I don't like as well. Like, and likewise, there are things that I like about World that I don't like about Iceborne. I think Iceborne made worse.
Yeah, everything to do with the Clutch Claw updates I could have done without.
Yeah, I think the Clutch Claw was overall bad for the game, but because it's the same as the wire bug to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, FERN didn't agree with me. He thought that I was being too negative about the Clutch Claw, but the Clutch Claw to me feels the same way that the wire bug does, in that it is a gimmick that they have added to the base game that forces the rest of the game to revolve around it.
Yeah, and generally I had more fun with the game when we tried to ignore it, But I remember when I was doing hunts with you and Fern, one of you two would latch onto the monster and point out that something was hit by the weak spot when I was working on the tail or something totally different. And I'm like, well, do I keep working on this or go take advantage of the thing that they weakened? I'm not sure. And then, not to mention all the weird mechanics that went with it, with like grappling onto the monster, spinning it around and throwing it into walls, and all kinds of just wonky, over-designed nonsense.
Yeah, I was like, I get what they're going for, but I just don't appreciate it. Because it's not what I want to be doing. I don't want to sculpt my gameplay around some added gimmick, as opposed to getting good at the things that I'm trying to do, which is hit things with the greatsword. I want to be good at hitting things with the greatsword, and I picked the greatsword because I like the greatsword. I like the way it plays. I like the way it feels. I like the weight and the big numbers. I like the ponderous movement and the payoff when you get it just right. I didn't sign up for the clutch claw.
Yeah, but it's now shoehorn. Oh, those boy swimsuit sells for 19. I'll put it up for 18,999 and put it up.
Well, I mean, the reality is that there are a lot of people playing Barracats that now that need to wear short shorts, and there's nothing they can do about that other than buy it, because nobody bought those things when they were on the summer festival. Because seriously, who plays a guy?
Yeah. Why would you play an icky boy? Do I already have this hairstyle, or can I sell it? No wonder. Yep, I can sell it. I already have it. Make us some money. How much does it go for? Goes for...
What is that?
Not bad. I can get...
Oh, that's like... It's not very... I think it's quite ugly, but because it's cosmetic gear, somebody might buy it. Especially since it's like very, very mildly slooty.
What is it? The Thabnarian something?
Yeah.
If it's the dress, yeah, somebody will buy it.
Let's see. That one. Anyway, we're still doing a show here.
Yeah, I suppose we are. We're waffling, which probably I need to go buy more Venture.
This is why we have 3 hosts and not 2, folks.
Yeah, me and Vaul are quite bad when we don't have anything prepared ahead of time.
We're both good at waffling, but we're very bad at staying on task without Fern.
Yeah, we need Fern here to crack the whip. You consider yourselves lucky we didn't devolve into some tirade complaining about Joe and Jacinda. So
we could have just talked about boobies.
That too. I
hear that there's like a Neptunia crossover with Senra and Kagura coming out.
That is true. At least I feel like when we talk about the chest orbs, it is somehow more dignified than when the Kumars do it.
Well, it's because we're not really talking about it in a Kumari fashion. We're talking about it in a sort of a cheeky, a cheeky poking fun at the idea of talking about boobies, fashion.
Yeah, that
like we're not actively salivating.
Yeah, well,
we're not Kuka.
Yeah, we're not Kuka. I mean, mostly I think they're funny.
Well, yeah, the chesticles are hilarious because, like, you know, evolutionary biology would suggest that they are butts for the front of the body.
But and most girls I know that are able to have fun and be normal people think they're funny as well. So everybody else, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it wrong. All right, folks. I'm just gonna go ahead and call it there. We've done everything we could possibly do to make this a show. So I think we're done.
We had to nestle it gently in the gutter in the last few stanzas of our performance.
Yes, we did. So, all right, folks. I don't think there's any real closing comments. Sayonara. Goodbye.